Hello and welcome to Freq Boutique number 45. What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Freq Boutique, the monthly modular synthesizer performance showcase of the modular community. My name is Alex, and I am super stoked to be here and hanging out with y'all. So, again, thanks for being here. We used to do this in person at an awesome bar in Denver, Colorado called Fort Greene. And since we've been able to move to the internet and we are worldwide. And so I'm not going to keep going too long. I'm just going to say thank you again for being here. And our first performer is Alias Zone.
We must provide the people with a vision of the future. It can be done. We must provide the people with a vision of the future. Must provide the people. It can be done. The vision of the future. It can be done. We are willing to suffer the discomfort of change, when change we must, in order to achieve a better future. We are willing to suffer the discomfort of change, when change we are willing to suffer the discomfort of change, when change feeling that the individual no longer counts. The feeling. The feeling that the individual no longer counts. The feeling that the individual no longer counts. We didn't hear, but our deafness was only a temporary condition and not an irreversible condition. If we make mistakes, we must be willing to admit them. We have made mistakes. We realize that. We admit our mistakes. We did not foresee the full consequences of our actions. We have made mistakes. We realize that. We admit our mistakes. We realize that. We did not foresee and admit our mistakes. Consequences of our actions. We did not foresee the full consequences of our actions. Today, that is not enough. People want more. That is not sufficient reason. Today, that is not enough. Today, that is not enough. That is not sufficient reason. But there is something different about tonight. There is something special about tonight. What is different? What is special? There is something different about tonight. There is something special about tonight. There is something different about tonight. There is something different. What is special tonight? What is different? What is special? We must provide the people with a vision of the future. It can be done. Different about tonight. There is something special about tonight. What is different? What is special? There is something different about tonight. There is something special about tonight. There is something different about tonight. There is what is different? What is special tonight? What is different? What is special?
Yeah.
And there we go.
That was amazing.
Thank you. That turned out to get a little more orchestral than originally planned.
Oh, yeah. Maybe explain what you mean by that.
Well, I ended up adding up a lot of parts. I mean, I really like mixing the really heavy bass. I had two different bass voices, one with a pair of digital oscillators, one with a pair of analog.
Okay.
But I countered that with rings playing the plucked harp type sound.
Yeah.
But rather than using rings as internal, I actually had the drum loops going into the resonator of rings. And then at the same time, I had the drum loops stepping a sequencer so the notes changed on major hits of the drum pattern. So that's why it seems like someone's plucking along with the drum pattern.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask about the drum loops. So they are loops. What are those being played back with?
I've got a 1010 bitbox that have the drum loops, and they're playing the different crash cymbals and gongs.
Okay.
And then down here, I have a 1010 black box, which was doing the Barbara Jordan vocal drops and also the rattles and shakers, which I recorded myself out of my collection of toys like this.
So I was curious about that because I heard you playing. My favorite one was the one that kind of looks like a metal paddle with rivet.
Yes.
And that was going through. It's got some, I guess, loops around it. And so that was going. You have a microphone to your right. It's going through the mixer, and then that was through some reverb. I was curious, were you live sampling that as well, or just improvising that?
I was just improvising it live. So it has a bit of reverb. It had a huge wash of reverb on it, very little dry and a huge wash. But then I've got a separate delay channel set up using a 4MS DLD, a stereo mixer, the Ikari stereo mixer in the feedback loop. And I timed it to come in a measure and a beat after Barbara Jordan did, so that there was this delay before you heard the repeated vocal drops. So I was using the same delay then for this. So I knew when I set something up ahead of time, like this, that it was going to come back a couple bars later. So that gives me a chance to transition to start doing something else when the other texture comes back in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Because I was
there it is.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I heard it. Yeah, so I was curious about if that was loop or if that was a loop or if that was delay, and so that's actually a delay. What delay again was that?
That's a 4MS DLD, and the reason I like it a lot is that I can dial in precisely the number of clocks I delay something. So I did a lot of practicing with the vocal drops from Barbara Jordan of not having her step on herself and pushing it back till it didn't get stepped on a downbeat, just appear right after downbeat after she's done speaking. So it was really nice to have that control as to what musical beat the delays would come in on.
Right, and then when you triggered those samples, the vocal samples, were those just like a one shot from the black box, or were those looped? Those were not looped.
Those were not looped. They were one shots that I had timed out ahead of time. I knew what the tempo of this piece is 63 BPM. So I chopped up her vocal snippets and spaced them out to hit on measures or on the 3 or something like that. So it was rhythmically in time with the music.
Okay. So coming into this, I was curious, how much of this is planned versus improvised? And I know that's a hard question. People ask me it, but I had to ask.
Yeah, no, the bones are planned and then the flesh is improvised. So the sequences are all pre-entered into the vector sequencer, the 512 vector sequencer. And I've kind of lined up the vocal snippets, the drum loops, and the vector stuff I liked ahead of time. But then when I move to a new section, which has a new loop, a new sequence, etc., I'm improvising during that section. Like all the keyboard stuff I played, this keyboard was triggering a Waldorf Iridium, which is just out of the camera shot.
Right.
That's all improvised. Whether or not and when to play the hand percussion, that's improvised. I've also got an additional qubit surface in here, and I'm actually triggering it from the snare channel on grids. So I was dialing up and down how many beats, how many events I wanted to happen inside of a measure, then dialing back down again just as accents.
Okay, cool. And so you said the MPK, the MPK is just playing the Iridium.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there any sort of like time like looping with that or anything, or is that just all free flow?
No, that's all just really in fun patching. They've got some really nice layering and long envelopes. When I hold down a note like this, it'd be like a measure until this other sound comes in on a delay.
Okay.
So it takes a bit of premeditation of like, I want this to come in a couple measures. I need to start the note now.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome.
And
it was so many textures, and a lot of them sounded relatively similar, or just, I shouldn't say similar. They all fit so well together that I didn't know what was looping, what was a part of the sequence, and what was being played live. And that's probably obviously the goal.
Yeah, I was trying to do variations. Like I went through 4 different patches on the Iridium that are close but different. I was switching different resonators on rings. I also had the same sequence that was driving rings, going out to MIDI and driving a Wave Station AD. It's my Poly keyboard station over there, adding some additional accents. So I was trying to have a family of sounds within variation inside that family.
Okay, awesome. And there was kind of like, especially in the beginning, it was kind of throughout the whole thing, but definitely in the beginning, there's like some chain kind of sounds, like a walking kind of texture. Was that a loop that you made, or what was that?
Yeah, that was a loop that I made. I had this rattle that on one end of it is a traditional rattle, and on the other end is a bunch of old bottle caps on wires. And I was just shaking out the rhythm ahead of time and looped that so I could put those into the bit box.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much. Alias Zone, that was amazing. If
Thank
you
you.
are all watching, if you don't know, Chris is the proprietor of learningmodular.com. He's an awesome resource for getting into modular, learning about all the different kinds of things that come with modular. And so definitely check that out if you have not already.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you again for being here. Really appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, so thanks everybody. Wow, that was I'm still just taken back. That one was so much fun. But we are going to keep this going. And just thanks everybody for being here. And we have 5 more performers, so don't go anywhere. Make sure you pour yourself a drink. Cheers with us virtually and keep hanging out. Up next, we have Calytrix. All right. That was Calytrix, everybody. She'll be right back with us in a second. In the meantime, I'm going to pour myself another drink. I encourage you to do the same as you are hanging out with us on this beautiful Monday night, Freq Boutique. Super stoked that everybody's here. Chat's been super healthy, super fun, and keeping the positive vibes rolling. So we're super thankful for that. And what is up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing great. How are you?
Much less stressed out now that I guess that went okay.
I think that went pretty great. Went better than okay, for sure.
Thank you.
So, I mean, the chat was blowing up. We had lots of people, referencing the alien going into outer space vibes. And I was curious. So in the very beginning, you had these nice little pluck textures that seemed like they were going into reverb. And I was curious as to what those were.
So the pluck textures were something weird. I had a feedback patch that was the mimeophone, the interstellar radio, and the sprot, plus also mediated by wave shaping with the tan-H, and also the stereo dipole to finally shape the sound before it came out. So okay. That was one big feedback patch. When it's turned all the way down, it made plucky sounds.
Right.
And then just got weird from there as I messed with it.
Okay, cool. So as you turn up the feedback and it gets more intense, the whole patch goes crazy.
Yes. That was, yeah.
And is that kind of the idea behind the whole patch? Is that kind of the foundation?
I want to say it's probably the most persistent sound or set of sounds. I would occasionally fade it out. It was basically the stereo in on the XO. So I'd fade it in and out now and then, mainly just like if I was personally getting a little tired of the like persistent noise wall that it was making, and to let something else breathe a little bit. But it was pretty much there.
XO?
What's that?
What's the XO?
It's the is it? Oh, no, sorry, the X-Pan. The XO is the output module. The X-Pan is what I meant to say. My apologies.
Oh, that's cool. Is that a make noise module?
Yes, it is a make noise panner, but it also is just a stereo in.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I trying to there like sometimes I can follow along pretty well, and then there's sometimes where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I know that one.
There are so many modules out there.
Modular is. Yeah.
Especially like when you get sorry.
Oh, keep going.
It's like especially when you get to things like mixers, there are just so many choices out there, which is great.
Yeah.
Because it's very surprisingly like personal choice in what mixer you want.
Absolutely. And that's something I don't think that has been said enough is like that I think is really interesting about the difference between like the WMD mixer, which is a mixer that, is made around faders and the idea of just giving you a familiar interface of like a console versus, any other mixer that's more, other mixers that are more about just getting sources together, more about CV control, more about panning, more about things like that. You can achieve those things with a mixer like the performance mixer, but it is, I don't know, more of a, I don't want to say clinical, but it is definitely like more traditional. Whereas there's other ones that are just like, yeah, throw these in, throw more stuff at this and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely.
And like you said, that's a very personal thing of like, how do you want to do this?
Yes. And yeah, one of those things you can only just figure out by trying different options.
Exactly. Absolutely. So with that, so again, I asked you this last time. I asked you the last time you played if you were using any samples. And this time I think I could tell that it was pretty much all being synthesized in real time, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I was curious about, there's sounds that to me sounded like sample rate reduction or like vocal kind of sounds. And I was wondering if that was like amplitude modulation or if that was audio rate modulation over the Q pass or something like that, the kind of like kind of things.
There was a bunch of audio rate modulation going to a bunch of different places that I was turning up and down throughout the patch.
Okay.
There was a bit where I was doing basically sample rate reduction with the chronoblob. Because if you move it quickly through because it has a crossfade mode. If you move it quickly through that, it will just start glitching in a really, really nice way.
Interesting.
Some of the vocal stuff was definitely the Sprott, because it has a ton of inputs. Are you familiar with the Sprott?
I was just about to ask. I don't think I've heard of that.
So the guy who does Seat Lombard has a Eurorack module line.
Okay.
And the Sprott is a chaos pass filter. Cool. It's just basically a complex, it's a complex circuit with similar to like something like what the Sloss is, but in audio rate. Okay. So it has just a bunch of weird inputs. It's kind of one of those modules that you just patch up and see what it does. That was getting in, if I could get it into the right sweet spots, it makes some very nice vocally sounds. Okay. Or it would just sound like madness, which worked in this patch, but doesn't always work in all of them.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. I've been working a lot on fatigue, and that's something I've been thinking a lot about. Is like, how do you push just to the end of that to where, when you strip everything away, it's very relieving, and that it's like tension and release with harmony, but how do you do that more with like noise and just like pure loudness, I guess?
Yeah, I think the thing I've been learning, doing a lot recently, like the last few sets I've done, is just really embracing silence more and just actually going to maybe almost entirely silence or some really sparse texture every so often. Just because, I can, especially with a 20-minute set, it can get really tiring if it's just noise.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a valid point. I mean, I think that going to silence, I make lots of dance music. I also do make ambient music and soundscapes and things. And in my dance music, I've been learning the importance of taking everything out. And just whether it's you just go to the kick drum and that's it, you can do that, or whether you just go to just one thing, but at least some point where everything goes out and you have a break, I think is awesome. And it's totally cool. With your style and with what you did tonight of really bringing the heat as far as noise goes, bringing in all those high frequencies and then stripping it back to a point of is it over? Oh shit, no, we're coming back. Okay, what's going to happen next? That's awesome. Yeah. And so speaking of that, I was curious of the swells, because I'm always asking about sequencing and modulation. And so I was curious about if you were doing any really, if there was modulation in control of the peaks and the valleys, if that was a part of the patch or if that was all you.
A little bit of both. I have heavily used procedural sequencing through the marbles, and now I have a Benjamin V2, which I use as a sequencer a lot because it's basically a Turing machine with some extra features.
Right.
And then the clay, we're doing a lot of sequencing, and then I have a vector space, a ton of LFOs, and a cold Mac, just build a very dense modulation patch. Right. And then I like to play on top of it, effectively trying to play with it. So the thing about a really dense modulation patch like that is it can be kind of muddy because it's going to be all over the place all the time. So really a lot of it is just bringing in and out modulation. Yeah. And most of what I was doing is either just playing with one of the effects or playing with a mixer, and letting the patch just kind of go wild. Right. Or playing with that one feedback loop that we talked about earlier.
Totally. And so when you say bringing in and out modulation, are you doing that with a mixer or with VCAs or I guess, are you attenuating modulation and allowing it to come through? Is that what you mean by that?
Sometimes I do attenuators. Because of the quirks of certain modules, I actually just have them entirely the modulation unpatched, and I patched in later. Like the interstellar radio has some internal cross modulation if you don't have something patched into the CV ends. Right. So if you want to switch into it being externally modulated, but you kind of just want to patch it when it's time to do that. So there's like it was pretty dark. So I don't know if there's like a light amount of live patching as I was figuring out some new places to do modulation. But yeah, mostly it's attenuation or mutes.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, yeah, the stereo field was great. Textures were awesome. It was a super fun set to be a part of. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. Everybody, this is Calytrix. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us tonight. This is Freq Boutique number 45. And we're just going to keep it going. And so, yeah, up next we have Renku Corporation. I think we may have lost audio.
Hey, do you have me?
Oh, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
It looks like you're still playing.
I know, this is how I'm transcending time right now.
All right, pretty cool. Yeah, I was like, what's going on? So first of all, thank you so much for playing. That was awesome.
Yeah, of course.
And for being a part of this. This is your first time playing Freq Boutique. And so I just have, first of all, I think you also have the most modules of anybody we've ever had play.
Well, I've been at it for a while, so it's been taking me a long time, but yeah, I have quite a bit.
So I like your setup, and it seems like so you're sitting down on the floor, and then so is most of your sequencing and stuff and like mixing and stuff, is that mostly down on the floor, like in front of you?
Yeah. So I have in the middle, I have the Noodle box, which is a 4-channel CV sequencer, and then I've got a bunch of other sequencers kind of scattered around it. And then I have my mutes controlled on my left hand that mute my gate parts for all the different parts that I'm triggering. And then I also have some submixers on the right that are mutagens that I also use to trigger or open certain channels.
Okay, cool. And so when you start up a patch, I guess how often do you start from scratch?
This one I started on Wednesday when I found out I was going to play.
Okay,
so
cool.
I started it from scratch then.
Okay, that's awesome. So it's pretty much every time. It's not like a
it's
patch
every time from scratch, yeah.
Cool. That's so cool. And I have some notes here about like what you were using for chord sounds, and that's probably a hard question to answer. But
no, it's actually easy. It's
cool
chords, cubic chords.
Oh, really?
Yeah, chords.
Okay, sweet. And then are you like hard transposing that, or are you like transposing? Are you
so the way that one was getting its sequence was through it was a sample and hold. So there's a noise into a sample and hold, and then that was being quantized and sent over to the chords. So okay. There was about probably half of the melodic parts were being done through some type of sample hold plus quantization.
Oh, that's awesome. And then what are you using for drums?
So for drums, today there was a lot of things for drums.
Yeah, it's so rhythmic.
So as you might imagine, there's 2 Akimi's Taikos. That's a great drum module. So I have two of those. The Irakaji glitch drum. There's a Tip Top Audio BD808, a Jomox bass drum was the big kick at the end. The snare is a Fracture. There's also a Chimera, a BIA, a Plonk. Probably leaving something out, but there's a lot in there. Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah, I think in the beginning I feel like I heard the Chimera and Fracture, and I was curious if those were in there. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, that's definitely it.
And then, so you had, there's like a sequencer looking module on the left, and it has white pads and then like blue knobs. Is that the Polyind preset? Is that
Yeah, it is. You got it. So that's the Polyind preset. I don't see a lot of people use it. I was only using a few presets today, but what you can do is you can set 9 CV voltages that are fixed, and then you can move between them on all of the 32 pads. So it's kind of like pressure points on steroids.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's kind of how I explain it to my friends. Is like, yeah, it's like pressure points, but like you said,
it's like pressure points if pressure points had 9 channels for each step and 32 steps.
And then my last thing is I was wondering like how do you go about? I guess there's 2 questions. How do you go about transitioning? How do you go about transitioning from part to part? First question is in real time, and I guess the second one, which you could say first, is how do you plan for transitions from one part to the next?
Oh, okay. So so for transitions in real time, a lot of times what I use, I have a lot of delay on a lot of parts, so that's usually pretty useful. And since I mute the gates and not the audio, the last VCA trigger will keep ringing out through the delay, and then that gives me kind of the time to bring something else in over the top of it. The other things that I do is I just think of, when I want the certain drum parts to hit, I kind of categorize each one as, what I think it kind of means in terms of like a snare or a hi-hat or a kick drum, and then try to bring those in at the appropriate times as I would think of adding the percussion throughout the part. And then the melodic parts is just kind of moving back and forth between different things that are playing, and trying to, well, I spent probably a day getting it all in tune, so
Yeah.
it hopefully was in tune today. So that was what the challenge part, but hopefully it was all in tune.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it sounded really cool. Lots of texture. Got really intense, but ebbed and flowed, like I was talking about with William. With Calytrix, it's nice and giving the ears a little bit of a break, and things like that. So again, yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope to have you back sometime.
Oh, I would love it. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Oh, just to let you know, I represent Houston Modular Houston, and we are the only modular organization in Houston. So if you ever are in Houston, check us out.
Absolutely. So are you located there now?
Yeah, I am in Houston now. So I was up near New York, the New York area, earlier this year. Oh, I'm sorry, last year. And I was up there and met with a lot of the New York modular folks scene, and so I'm familiar with those guys. And then I've been back down here in Houston. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, that is great. Like, definitely have to represent all the different modular communities all over. So thank you for bringing that up, and yeah, thank you for your contributions to that and to the scene in general. I saw someone in the chat mention that you've been really helpful on the Reddit modular thread, and so they thank you for that. So yeah, thanks so much.
Cool. Well, yeah, you'll find me there. You might find me on Muff Whalers. You might find me some other places. So yeah, I pop up from time to time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, and yeah, like I said, can't wait to have you back.
All right, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. We are just going to keep on pushing. Freq Boutique, number 45. Can't believe we're already to number 45. We're so close to 4 years. Isn't that wild? And just quick little history lesson for people who don't know. We started this at a bar in Denver called Fort Greene. And Fort Greene is still alive and well. So if you are ever in the Denver area and want to grab yourself a beverage, make sure to hop on over to Fort Greene. Really cool spot, great vibes. They do have outdoor heaters and things like that now. So when they're doing outdoor service. So if you can pay them a visit, that would be super appreciated. Since we have moved online. But yeah, I mean, when we started, it was like 6 or 7 of us hanging out. And it was one of those things. It was like, oh man, is this bar going to be mad at me? And then, the months kept going, the years kept going. We started getting a really cool following, and now we have like a crew. And now with everything that's gone on, this crew has grown to be worldwide. And so yet again, I'm just so thankful that everybody is hanging out with us. And we've got so many cool performers from all over, super rad. And up next is a performer that never really had time. They're from Denver, but they didn't really have much time to play Freq Boutique because they were always doing other things. He's one of those road warrior people, so he's always out on the road. And so it's pretty cool to be able to have Roachy with us and doing a modular set. And yeah, super thankful. So again, thanks everybody for being here. Up next, we have Roachy. Don't go anywhere. Damn. Beautiful room here. And and a little bit of echo.
Oh, hi.
Yo, thanks so much for playing.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so everybody, this is El Roachy, and this is his first time playing as well. So give it up. First time playing Freq Boutique.
I need to drink water really badly for some reason.
Yeah,
Can't
do
imagine why.
It's all good. I'm just like drinking scotch like it's water over here, so no worries.
That's after this, you know. I
Yeah,
couldn't get
I
too
like the
white
days
girl
I
wasted
don't
for
have to
this, you
play.
know.
Yeah, the days I don't have to play, it's pretty nice. I'm just like, all right, let's party. So I am trying to figure out all the questions to ask you. And because it's your first time playing, I don't really know your setup and how it works. So, after people have played a few times, I kind of get an idea of what to use and philosophies and such.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm going to ask you is what's like kind of the foundation and the philosophy behind making tracks in terms of like how do you prepare for a show like this?
I get loose ideas, okay? So just kind of like loose sounds of, hey, here's some, things I want to try and accomplish while I'm playing. Everything else just kind of happens.
Okay.
I just kind of like roll with what the sounds are and what they're doing and try and like push that in other directions. Sometimes it goes really great. Sometimes, you know what? It falls off the rails a little bit, but hey, that's part of the fun of it.
Right.
I've been a hardcore Ableton guy for ages, and I just needed something to like spice it up for me, and that's how I kind of started delving into this insane setup.
Okay, cool. So you're speaking of your insane setup. You've got like starting out. I saw like it seems like TR-8S was kind of the drums and stuff like that. Like maybe the beginning ideas.
So the TR-8S triggers MIDI down to everything else to kind of clock everything from there. So the TR-8S will trigger then the Mini Brute S over there, and then that's sending a clock source over to Metron as well. All right. So everything's basically just kind of linked to the time clock of the TR-8S. I kind of like it when sounds drift in and out rhythmically, and that's a real fun way to accomplish that. A lot of the drum sounds I actually try and synth off the modular itself. Basically, what I do is I've got the 808, the tip top 808 drum modules in there. That's routed into like one of those lovely Roland SH5 filters.
Okay.
And then that goes into the Dave Smith Instruments feedback circuit. So I can do kind of like weird little like time warp things with the percussion and stuff like that. Also, you can get like, nice little like percussive flanges and stuff like that as you go along. But basically off the TR-8S, I'm mainly just using the kick and the snare separated out with everything else, so I have control over other elements that I can play with in real time.
Totally. So I was curious about that because I saw you playing the Yamaha mixer a couple times.
Correct.
So I was wondering if you had sounds like separated out there and then we're using like effect sends to like give them like dub style reverb and things.
That is correct. One of the sends feeds into the modular itself, so I can feed stuff into the Rainmaker delay. The Rainmaker delay is like one of my favorite things. It's this weird little beast that you can get all these weird, crazy textures out of, or you can make delays.
Right.
After that, it hits my polychorus pedal, and then the polychorus pedal feeds into that little Roland MX1 mixer I have.
Right.
And then that's kind of like my end-all be-all effects return, because I can affect the effects. You can get wild in there. My problem with that thing is the preamps on it just kind of are way too noisy.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I was pulling my hair out for about a year just trying to figure out where's this hum coming from.
Oh no.
Dude, it's the mixer.
Yeah.
It was the mixer itself. So that's why I wound up actually getting that nice little Yamaha mixer. It's clean as a whistle.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that Roland thing is so interesting. Like, it is so cool in theory.
Absolutely. In theory, it's a great idea. In execution, they kind of have some areas of opportunity. You know?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about that I think they did excel at that you're obviously not using, I don't think, at least right now, but is the fact that they put digital inputs on it with USB. And like, that's a cool idea.
I actually am using that in two
You are
different
using-
ways.
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard when I was going for the live drum stuff.
That's my next question. So.
Okay, I have. You can't see it off camera because this is the best shot that I could pull out of my butt in literally like a week.
Yeah.
So off camera, I've got just like a little bongo set up with just a little AKG C414 mic, and then I've got this like ghetto fabulous M Audio Tampa preamp.
Okay.
The M Audio Tampa preamp has a digital output on it. So I've actually taken that digital output to run it back to the MX1 so I can actually get digital signal into it, and I can make all these weird little like glitchy kind of textures in real time as I jam along.
That's super cool. Yeah, I was wondering about that. That's awesome.
The problem is though I can never actually play with real speakers turned on. It has to always be in the headphones. Otherwise it's like Feedback City, not in the good way.
That's a question I meant to ask Learning Modular Alias Zone Chris as well. Sorry, I'm like saying everybody's all their names.
It's all the Chris's tonight, dude.
Yeah, we do have a bunch of Chris's. But that's something I wanted to ask him as well, is like when you're using the microphone in the room and you're throwing it into delay, like are you restricted to headphones? Because I'm working on that myself right now. I think I have to move this way.
Yeah.
I have a microphone set up right there. And I'm trying to start singing and things, but like I can't do it without
you need to hear yourself.
I have to hear myself, so I have to do it on my
totally get
headphones.
that.
And I'm starting worrying about like stage volume, even though there is stage doesn't exist, but I'm like worrying about that.
You're preaching to the choir about this subject, good sir. Yeah, I understand. Getting an actual monitor mix that's listenable, that's a whole challenge within itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, you're just gonna have to like dedicate an aux in or something, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing okay. Like, I mean, I think doing it here is going to be the big thing, and then when I do get to play in front of people, like again, the big deal will be choosing when and when not to do it. Because when I can't do it at Fort Greene, for instance, because I'm just going to be like that room is really loud. But if I am playing on a stage, maybe I could do it with in-ears or something.
Yeah.
That's something you don't see a lot of people like modular people do. So, but we're all getting there, right? That's like the idea, I guess like we're turning this into like more of a live performance thing where like the tools of the trade are going to be more commonly used.
I have a little personal monitor set up above the Moog, but if I use the microphone, dude, immediately I have to turn that son of a gun off,
Yeah, totally. Okay, we're going to keep moving. I have a couple more questions. Bass sound, throughout the kind of the whole sound, you had this just like one note, but like I don't know if it was 8th note or 16th notes, but it was just like a nice like pulsing thing going on. What was that?
That was probably coming off either the Moog or the TB03.
I think I heard two, and I think one I could call out as like a free sound, and one sounded more deep.
So I also fired up the motor synth, and I found the TB303 and the motor synth are actually like best friends forever. Who would have thought? Cool. Because the motor synth's just this gnarly little wild beast that wants to do whatever the hell it wants to do, and I'm okay with that. But you also need like some kind of sound that kind of defines the pitch for you, if you will, something that grounds you. So they play nice together. So I've been really just experimenting with that, and this is my first real attempt to try and use motor synth in a live setting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that was my last question. Like I saw the motor synth up on top of the stack, and there were some leads that I couldn't pin down, but then when I saw that, I was like, that's what that has to be.
Oh yeah. The motor synth has about 6 CV inputs that you can route to it. I'm still kind of delving into that whole area, but I've got one channel of Metron actually like set up to trigger the motor synth. The problem is I just haven't actually got it to work yet. Okay. But it's just a learning curve. I literally got the synth for Christmas. It's a year late, but whatever. It showed up exactly when they said on the Kickstarter timeline.
Yeah, right.
A year later. But yeah. That's motor synth.
Totally, that's awesome. Yeah, I watched a video with them. I don't remember. Trying to remember when it was. I think it was in September, and they were like, Don't worry about it. It's coming.
So apparently the production holdup was that people complained it was too noisy acoustically. And they did something to dampen it. It's still noisy as all get out, but I love it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, me and Drift Diffusion were actually talking about putting up like a contact mic on it and just running that into the modular for texture or something. Because when you start it up, the motors actually like make this really cool whirring, clicking sound. And if you put it to sleep, you can actually trigger the sound in real time. So I'm just trying to figure out how to bring that trick into the mix here,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like being like using a fan oscillator or something made from like anything with mechanical parts, and then complaining that mechanical part is too loud. It's like, well, that's kind of
yeah. You knew what you were getting into. It's a motor synth that makes noise.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for playing. Awesome.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me, dude. It was a blast.
Yeah, no worries. Hopefully we can have you back as soon as possible.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone. That was El Roachy. Awesome set. Super fun. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Freq Boutique number 45. We're just going to keep on rolling. Up next, we have Herr Shield. Yeah. That was super awesome. The sounds were just like right. Just exactly what I needed at that time.
All right, let me briefly try to set up the camera.
Yeah. Take your time. You're all good. I agree with someone in the chat that said that we could listen to this. Oh, yeah. Monoscene, who is behind the logistics of this stream. Shout out Monoscene. Thank you so much. He said in our little private chat he could listen to this for another hour, and I definitely agree with him. That was super fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So this is your first time as well playing a Freq Boutique. So I'm gonna, rather than kind of like dive into the individual bits right away, I'm just gonna ask a little bit about what's kind of the heart of your system, and then kind of like the philosophy you go into like preparing something like this.
Mm-hmm. So the heart, I would say, is NerdStack in my system. So this is basically the master clock, and so I use it basically like clips in Ableton, so where you basically can have like a few pre-prepared sequences, and so I use this, for example, to sequence some of the bass sounds and some of these pad sounds.
Okay.
And so in general, the philosophy I would say is that I have like, so basically I have either drums or super wide stereo, and well, bass of course. And so essentially from the modular I have one stereo track coming out, which is like all of these atmospheric sounds. And so all of these are merged in one mix-up, and so then fed through a reverb, which then goes into Q+A to give like this super wide stereo. After that, I throw it into Mimeophone to give even more stereo, like with the ping pong and this skew. So then it basically bounces left and right, and yeah, so this gives it like this super wide stereo and like this super washed out, very nice and calm atmosphere. And yeah, for the drums, so like the main drums are all from MFB Tanzbär.
Okay,
So
cool. That's what I thought.
Yeah, so I really love this drum machine. So it has like it has two kick sounds, and so I really love the interplay between these two. So one of the kicks is basically inspired from the 909, and the other one is inspired from the 808.
Okay.
And so what is really cool on Tanzbär is that you can program like these pitch bands. So you've heard that in the sound set, like these bouncy basses that go up. And yeah, this is what you can do with the Tanzbär really easily. Other than that, I was using the Analog 4, but only for sequencing some of the stuff. So
Okay.
the Analog 4 was sequencing plats, which was fed into a sample and hold module. And then it also just got into this effect chain.
Okay.
So I have one VCO for the sample and hold, which is sequenced by Metropolis, just to give it like these like melodic glitch artifacts essentially.
Okay. So
Yeah.
kind of using sample and hold kind of as like as like sample rate reduction kind of thing, or
Yeah, exactly.
cool.
So I have like one oscillator which is like at very high frequency, and so I use it as target for, or like to modulate multiple things. So I also used drum samples on the assimilator, and so I was using this this oscillator also to phase mod all of the drum sounds there, which gives it like this nice glitchy sounds.
Okay.
And so for the drum sounds that were on the assimilators, I always forget how it's called, but essentially, so you have like multiple voices, and in the voices you can have, I think, zones.
Yeah.
And so you can step through these zones automatically, like with each trigger. And so I was using this with multiple differently pitched drum sounds to give like these drum melodies.
Okay.
And so this one was then sequenced by the subharmonicon. So the subharmonicon has this polyrhythm section. And so I was using this to essentially drive like two drum voices in the assimilator.
Okay, sweet. And then are you using I saw like you have like the Peak, I think, and some other synths. Or were you using those tonight, or were you all using modular?
So most of it was in the modular, so I was not using like any of the traditional synthesizers. I have the Peak here, the Dominion 1, and OB6 behind me, but so I was not using them today.
Okay, cool. So what were you using for the pad sounds? Because those were just like lush and super nice.
Yeah, so what I started with was Morphogene. So it was like Morphogene in the most simple way you can use it, essentially. So it's like just like some sample that I took from a movie, so like some synthesizer samples, and so it was just looping like a small bit of it, and it was not even modulated at all. And so then it was fed into this stereo voice thing. So like the first thing is that it gets super wide by being thrown into FX8 with like one of the super wide reverb, and yeah, then like through Q+A and all of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the next pad that I used was I think from Platts. So this was just using the chord mode. And then, yeah, like this one was sequenced from the analog 4, so like all the 2 different pitches that I used. And yeah, so I was playing around a little bit. It has this chord voicing knob, like, so I was using this to change it a little bit, and I don't even know what exactly the other knob does, like the morph. So this one just, yeah, changes the waveforms, I guess. So I was using this a little bit to just have some variation. And lastly, I was also using like one sample on the assimilator, also just some pad sound from some music that I sampled and then like heavily modulated with phase mod as well to give it a little bit of this glitch.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I was wondering just kind of like about all the different like the pad sounds and thinking about like using something like Platts. Like I think that's I mean that's a module I haven't played with. That's a module I don't have. I've definitely messed with rings a few times, but I never played with braids. And I think that that's probably something that would open my mind up in the modular space, I guess, a little bit more, is having some more of those chord voicings and things like that. Because I feel like I'm always like reverting back to like a big synthesizer, you know, and like you know, you can make those sounds with a nice little module. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so with Platts, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. So like for me, it's way too obscure in the sense of you have to remember all these hidden modes, and like depending on whether you plug certain patch cables, it sometimes has internal modulation or not. So it's like, yeah, so for that reason I struggle with it a little bit, and I always forget what exactly the buttons do.
Yeah.
So I tend to use it less, and I mostly use it in the chord mode. But yeah, for me, like as a person that is unable to properly play the keys, it's super nice to have this harmonics knob where you can just select the chord that you want. And so I don't even have to think about it. I just use the one that sounds right for me in the moment.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing, like about those modules is like I remember that about rings of like, for me, like I just find a mode that I like and I'm like, cool, this is what it does now. And then like
yeah, exactly.
I just had this one bass sound that I liked, and it was like almost every set I played, people were like, what is that? And it was like, it's rings. And then after a while, it was like, that's rings, isn't it? It's like, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for playing. That was awesome. And yeah,
thanks for listening.
Hope to have you back. Shared it in the chat. You are a big part of the Basement State Twitch channel. And so would you tell us a little bit about that? Just give us the spiel.
Yeah, so we are a group of streamers from Seattle. And so like when I joined this group, like I actually didn't even know these people in real life. So I just had recently moved here to Seattle, and so I got referred from Patchworks to Wes, who I think initiated this whole thing.
Okay, super
and
cool.
So we just started it all started on Twitch with essentially just raiding each other. And so then we gradually made it a little bit more professional. So basically, the problem is if you have this chain of rates, then you need to know who is currently playing to find the current set. And so then we used hosting on Twitch, but it was a bit inconvenient. So basically hosting like the individual performers. And so now we have this nice setup where we have like our host channel. We all stream there, and we do it every week on Fridays. So we do it at 8 p.m. PST.
Okay.
And so we always do live performances. So we usually have 4 performances, and sometimes we have some after parties, and sometimes we are also hosting some other guests. And so yeah, if you're interested, please reach out to us, and yeah, we're happy to host people in our stream as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you so much again for playing, and yeah, we really appreciate it. That was super cool. Hopefully we can have you back as soon as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. And again, thanks everybody for being here. We have one more performer, so don't go anywhere. Freq Boutique, number 45. Super stoked. I mean, what a crazy night of music, right? We've had like straight like ambience, noise. We've had some dance music. We've had some more like dubby IDM stuff. The Alias Zone set going into this spacey and almost like foresty vibe, like walking through the forest with, I don't know, really cool night. So thanks everybody that played. And up next, we have Null Phi Infinity. So stick around. All right. That set was dope.
Thank you.
As we are saying on the chat, shit was lit.
Lit AF.
Lit AF. Oh, man. I am definitely way too old to be saying that shit. Everybody, this is Null Phi Infinity. Thank you so much for playing.
Of course. Always happy to. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I was curious, like, the main drone kind of sound, and I guess just kind of like a little bit of a rundown of what you put into making this set.
So the main drone sound was the Bifaco even VCO being frequency modulated by the Cursus Ateritas, run through the angle grinder as a filter.
Okay, crazy. So what was that first oscillator you said? The Bifaco what?
The even VCO.
Okay, and what is that kind of? What's the
It's just
gist of that?
It's a standard VCO. The special wave is like a mix between the sine and the saw. It's like the even wave is like.
Oh
it's
yeah,
the
okay.
same. But otherwise, it's just got. I was using the square wave out and modulating the pulse width as well.
Okay, interesting. And then you were were you FMing that with the Loquelic?
With the Cursus, yeah.
With the Cursus?
Cursus.
Okay, cool. Dope. So yeah, that gives it that, like, that's wild. I wonder, like, it's like I want to hear it again because now I'm like, oh, what does that sound like?
It's super heavy. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure that's probably what went through your head, like, oh, I wonder what this sounds like. And yeah, and then going through the Schlappy, the angle grinder, yeah, that shit is one of my favorite modules. Super cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then you kind of had some more like melodic. They sounded like bell tones every once in a while. And like at one point, I literally heard like the sound that a Game Boy makes when it turns on, and I was wondering what that noise source was, and then what that was being sequenced with, whether it was like a sample and hold or something like that.
Yeah, so that was the Basimilus Ateritas altar.
Okay.
I was just using the clean algorithm. I don't remember what it's called. I can't even read it. It's too dark. But I was triggering that and sequencing that from the Ornament and Crime using one of the internal Turing machines, and the clock was coming from the Kitty Eyes Chaos module, which is like a chaotic clock, so it's not regular at all.
Okay, sweet, awesome. And so, like, when it comes down to like making the soundscape and the performance that you did, is everything attached to that clock in one way or another, or is it more like just embrace the chaos and have different parts happen when they happen?
It's kind of separate. That's really the only thing that clock was triggering.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I had like the swamp and the diode chaos kind of just going free, not synced to anything. Right.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask is like the past little while and just like in my own life, and then as well as like WMD, like support world, I've been like really focused on sync lately. And it's like really focused on like, oh yeah, well, you have to use this module with this module, and then figuring out all the little idiosyncrasies between other modules and what's happening, and really diving into why some things aren't going to work with another thing, and trying to educate myself on that. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I just want to clock this here and clock this here and just listen to what happens. I'm so over syncing stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to let it run free.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like been my theme of the night, like especially with the more ambient and more noise oriented artists, is like where are the buildups coming from? Like, are they coming from your hands and your feeling and emotion at the time, or are they coming from like an LFO that is slowly opening more and more modulation to let it get more chaotic and more noisy. And what would you say on that for your sound?
I tend to leave it to the chaotic stuff. I really enjoy like slow, chaotic, like, irregular LFOs that don't repeat and are kind of just like slowly undulating, kind of like an ocean.
Right.
It's kind of how I think about like just these waves overlapping and cresting at different times.
That's a super cool way to put it. That's definitely a really cool way to think about it. And for your music, I can totally see that. It's like, and one of the interesting things about the like just the ocean analogy is like when you sit on the beach and you look at the waves, it can seem rather predictable and rather repeatable or rather repetitive, depending on where you are and what break you're looking at, of course. But then like when you're out in the middle and there's like currents and convergences and confluences and all these things of different forces of energy hitting each other and creating reactions, that's a really cool way to think about music. Whereas rather than thinking of it like just as like the end result, it's like, no, it's like this big thing that everything kind of affects each other, and that's the end result.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you don't see under the surface.
Yeah, that too, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like we think about swells and all those things, but yeah, we don't see all the stuff under the surface. And like I just think about the Finding Nemo movie where it's like the stoner surfers are catching the current, and it's like, yeah, that's not a part of the waves. Like they're just like right, and they're under the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. So yeah, I was curious about the reverb sounds and what those were.
So for the low drone, I was going through the Desmodus Versio.
Okay, and is that a noise engineering reverb?
Yeah, that's the noise engineering reverb.
Okay, sweet.
And then I've got the high-pitched kind of like plucky, the Basimilus was going through the mimeophone, and I had that in like the swap mode.
Okay.
So like the left and the right channels like switch, and they're also delayed at different times. And I was using like another random trigger to trigger the hold, so it would like freeze. So it wouldn't always be delaying, the melody you're hearing. It'd be delaying like a part further back and like hold that for a little bit, like just randomly. And
Okay,
then
so just real quick, just to repeat, sorry, you had a trigger randomly triggering freeze?
Yeah, the freeze on the mimeophone.
Yeah, cool.
And I was giving it that kind of glitchy stutter.
Yeah.
And then there was another kind of like mid drone that was going through the monsoon.
Okay, sweet. And then curious about this is something I didn't really think about too much till like recently, and it's like when you're voicing the different parts of your arrangement or of your performance and the sounds you're going to use, do you select like do you select like a bass, a mid range, and a high? Like those are kind of going to be the elements?
I do and I don't. Like, I don't go into it trying to layer it out like that, but I am conscious, once I have a sound that I'm like, okay, this is like super bass heavy, or this is like super in the high frequency range. I don't then patch something that like is going to, muddy that frequency range up, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, totally.
I'll just kind of start with something, whatever like ends up happening, and then I'll use that as a guide for what I do next and kind of avoid that frequency range.
Right. Yeah, that's super cool. Like, so if you were like, say you started out with something that was high frequency centric, and you really dug the high frequencies on that, then would you think when you're coming up with the new thing, would you think to low pass and try and create something that's interesting that doesn't transcend into that frequency range?
Yeah, pretty much. But that I would also experiment. What if I did open it up and see how they overlap too? Because that could be interesting to do. Later on in the performance.
Yeah, totally. Okay, yeah, cool. So like that's super interesting. I mean, I think that one of the things that we talk about a lot in this with modular and just music production in general, though, like, you become more than just in music production, you become more than just an instrumentalist, right? You think about all the different parts. But then, like, when you get into modular, it turns back into an instrument, and it does with music production too. I mean, whatever, like anything you use, it turns into your instrument. But
Right.
but when you're using a modular, it turns more into like this thing that you are in control of all the different parts. So I'm always curious about how to place those together, and it's interesting to hear that you're at least conscious of those things. So that way, I brought up fatigue earlier, where it's like, okay, this with Calytrix, and it's like, okay, this range of frequencies has been like way too heavy for the past like 2 minutes. I got to chill that out. But while I do that, I can bring up the lower frequencies or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, awesome. Super cool talking with you. Thank you so much for playing.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thanks again, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. Freq Boutique number 45, another one in the books. We do this every second Monday. So make sure to hit the like button on the stream. That helps us out a ton. Make sure to hit us up on the subscribe button as well, the WM Devices YouTube channel. I put out lots of modular content, tutorials on our products, as well as just tutorials on things, techniques and modular ways to go about playing and things like that. Ways that I found that are cool, and other techniques that I've learned in other places. If you are interested in playing the Freq Boutique, we do a monthly. We choose performers monthly, so we choose performers every time. We choose them at random, and we choose them 1 week before the upcoming Freq Boutique. So next month we're going to choose performers the first Monday of the month. Then you get basically a week to prepare, and then you play. So all you really need is some sort of modular synth. Does not matter your ability. Do not be intimidated at all. Do not, just reach out, play. It's super fun. We are all about supporting people on any length of their journey. Wherever you are on your modular or music journey, just sign up and play. As you can see on the link, ColoradoModularSynthSociety.com/Freq Boutique. Sign up with some hyphens in there. So all you need is a modular or semi-modular synth and a live performance to be involved in that. Also, a couple events that are coming up. Colorado Modular Synth Society is doing an event called January Skies. This is going to be on January 24th. It's on the Colorado Modular Synth Society YouTube. You can literally just Google that. It's pretty easy to find. You can also go to, and it's also in the chat, you can go to ColoradoModularSynthSociety.com as well to find any links associated with them. We also have another event that is called NAMLIS Marathon, I think. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the NAMLIS Modular Madness Marathon. This is going to be put on by the Southern California Synth Society, also known as SoCal Synth Society. Another awesome resource and place to follow. Make sure you follow them on Instagram and on YouTube. They are doing a modular focused marathon of like a party. And we did this last year in real life in California after the NAMM show. I think it was the Saturday night of the NAMM show. I don't remember what night it was, but it was a really good time. Super cool people involved, really fun. Lots of talented artists are going to be there. people from all over, and definitely something to not miss. And again, all the different events to pay attention to. We have the Earth Modular Society, which is a channel on Twitch. We have Basement State, which is a channel on Twitch. We've got Vino Mallow, which is a channel on YouTube, and just really great places to watch weekly content of modular. So if you just want to keep this up, those are the places to do it. Am I missing anything else? Oh, I forgot to mention, I am playing the Namless event for the SoCal Synth Society. I'm super stoked to play a set. Haven't played in a while, so that should be fun. So make sure to come out to that event. Although virtually, it is going to be a really good time. So again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for just supporting this event, supporting the musicians, and supporting WMD. And yeah, we will see you all next time. Again, thanks. Peace.